Source: Sword Art Online Season 1. Hey guys, and welcome to AniRecapz. Subscribe and like for more quality uploads. By the year 2022, humanity have fully developed the VR MMORPG. This story begins on that exact year at November 6th. Sword Art Online, a highly anticipated and renowned online fantasy game, had already sold over 10,000 copies. Players were forming huge lines at game stores for 4 days before the sale even began. Then the scene changes to Kirito. He logs in that new game using his beta tester avatar. Once inside, he found himself in the main town of the first floor, the Town of Beginnings. Kirito goes through the city's central market while heading towards the city gate, until a new player, called Klein, noticed his knowledge on the layout of the city and asked for Kirito's help in learning the game's mechanics, after deducing that Kirito was a beta tester. Traveling to the west field outside the Town of Beginnings, Klein experienced some initial difficulty fighting against a level 1 monster called a frenzied boar, and had been reminded that the player could not feel any actual pain. Instead, there would be an unpleasant feeling in its place, alongside the depletion of the player's hit point gauge when hit. Kirito explains to Klein how the movement also needs to use sword skills, which is a core feature of SAO. Then he demonstrated one of these skills with a sword. Klein carefully listened to Kirito before he finally killed the rampaging boar, which really pleased him. A few hours later, Kirito suggested that Klein should continue the hunt, but he refuses due to hunger. Although eating virtual food in the game world eliminated the unpleasant feeling of hunger, but it does not dispel the actual hunger in real life. So, Klein decided to log out because he ordered a pizza a few hours ago. However, when Klein opens his menu, he discovers that the logout option had disappeared. He thought it was a glitch. Soon the town bells from the central town started ringing at that moment. All the players were forcefully teleported to the Town of Beginnings. On the virtual screens in the sky, a system announcement drew everyone's attention. Suddenly, an unidentified giant figure appeared, dressed in the robe, identifying himself as Akihiko, the game creator and the only person in control right now. He explains how he purposely removed the login option from the game, trapping thousands of players inside. The game master reveals that attempting to forcibly remove the nerve gear would cause its transmitter to cause lethal thermal damage to the player's brain. Klein expressed his doubts, but Kirito confirmed that nerve gear's signal is essentially like a microwave, and if the safety device fails, it may indeed cause fatal brain damage. Disconnecting it from its power source would also be meaningless since it has an external battery. Meanwhile, Akihiko says despite him having warned the outside world of the situation beforehand, some of family members had already ignored the warning, causing the death of 213 players, which shocks everyone. Akihiko also mentioned that he had removed the revival system from the game. Therefore, when a player dies in-game, the game's avatar is permanently lost, while at the same time nerve gear kills the player's brain. The only way to escape from this game world is to complete it, reaching its 100th Anchored floor. After finishing his announcement, he gave everyone a hand mirror item, which the players took out, and to their surprise, it revealed their real faces and bodies from real world. After that, Akihiko revealed that his only goal was to create his own created isekai world, where he can control it however he wants like God. While everyone stood in silent shock after Akihiko's departure, Kirito quickly took action and asked Klein to start up their leveling quest right away, before everyone panics and takes all the toilet tissues from the nearby village. However, Klein rejects his offer, saying how he couldn't leave some of his real-life buddies there. Kirito realized that with his current abilities, he could only protect one player at a time. Klein noticed Kirito's concerns and politely says that he should move on, as he intended to go back and help his friends with the lessons that Kirito had taught him. He then tried to cheer Kirito up with a joke about his slightly feminine appearance, to which Kirito retaliates by stating that Klein's unkempt face suited him better. They then parted ways. Kirito ran through the town and outside of the gate, vowing that he would survive in this game world and be free from the imprisonment while swiftly taking out a wolf standing on his way. About a month later, by December 2nd, 2,000 players had already died, but the first ground floor had not yet been cleared yet. Kirito feels bad on how so many players have already died, while the first floor has not been cleared since the official release of SAO, which was a month ago. Even former beta tester Kirito couldn't find the location of the boss room. A meeting is being held in Tobana to discuss how to defeat the first floor boss. Yahello, a self-proclaimed knight, called a meeting in the center of town. After a brief joke about the lack of a career system in the game, Yahello brought their attention back and surprised them by announcing that his team had been located in the boss room at the top of the maze. He declared that they, as the strongest players in the game, had the responsibility to defeat the boss, reach the second floor, and inform other players in the starting city that they could clear the level, and his declaration was enthusiastically endorsed. Yahello suggested that the players form parties with each other, similar to how a raid group would stand a better chance against the boss. Kirito panics when he saw everyone else already having a party. Then he notices a hooded girl sitting all alone. He then goes to her and nervously asks her to party with him. After signing the party, Kirito notices her beautiful name, Asuna. After the parties were formed, the meeting was interrupted by a player who introduced himself as Kibeo. When he demanded an apology from several Vate players for the 2,000 deaths in the game, Yahello realized he was referring to the former beta testers. He accuses all the beta testers for not offering any help to the beginners and instead seizing all the best hunting grounds and easy quests for themselves. He then stated his suspicion that there were beta testers in the meeting as well, and that they should relinquish all of their items and money, otherwise they would not be trusted by the others. However, Eagle intervened and defended the beta testers, stating that they should not be fully blamed, as they had already helped by distributing their knowledge of the game through manuals, and everyone had easy access to such books. Yahello and the rest of the attending players were revealed to have a copy of these books, which was made by beta testers, which pretty much shocks everyone. After the commotion was over, Yahello read an information book to the players in the crowd, telling them that the boss on the floor is the Fang of the Kobold Lord, and that he has minions called the Kobold Ruin Guardians. He also told them that at the last HP bar, the boss would drop his weapon, equip the Tau War, and use a different fighting style. Later that night, Asuna was having dinner when Kirito came and joined her, causing her to move away from him. Kirito gave Asuna a jar that tasted like cream, and she liked it very much. Kirito told her that the jar was the reward he got from the expedition, and she offered to tell her how to get it, but she refused, saying that she did not come to town to enjoy the good food. She worries that she might never be able to return to reality, and she fears that she will die a lonely death. Kirito tells her not to say it and keep fighting to the end. He will also protect his party members, as he don't want anyone to die on his presence. The next day, Kirito and Asuna discusses about the strategy. Kirito notices how Asuna was a newbie, as she didn't know few in-game mechanics, such as Switch, and regrets forming a party with her. Few hours later, they starts the raid. Yahello and his party gave out commands to kill the minions first. As the battle heated up, Kirito noticed that Asuna was moving incredibly quickly with her sword. He remarked that he couldn't keep up with her speed. When the boss's 4th HP bar reaches the red zone, Yahello ordered everyone to keep their distance, which confuses Kirito, as the original plan was for the raid group to surround him. Kirito quickly realized something was wrong when Ilfang pulled out an Adachi instead of a Tau War. Kirito told Yahello to stop and retreat, but he was too late. As Yahello's health rapidly declines, Kirito tries to give him a healing potion, but he declines. In his final moment, Kirito learns that he was after the final attack and was also a beta tester, and that he knew Kirito was in beta as well. He asked Kirito to defeat the boss for everyone and dies like a cool bastard. With Asuna's help, Kirito attempted to defeat the boss, with the same strategies they had used on the ruined Kobold Sentinels. The boss proved to be fast and attacked Asuna first, but she dodged the hit, resulting in her cloak being destroyed, revealing her face. They continued with their tactics until Kirito made a mistake and got hit, slamming into Asuna. Eagle saved them from receiving the final blow and told them to recover while the rest held the boss off. After they recovered, Kirito and Asuna give one last hit and Kirito received the last attack on the boss, defeating the boss with Kirito obtaining the last attack bonus item, the Coat of Midnight. Eagle, and Asuna tried to speak up, but Kirito laughed and told the group that he is better than those newbie beta tester, and boasted that he was not like those beta testers because he has reached even higher floors and more experienced than them. Kibeo and others started saying that he is a beater. Beater is beta tester and cheater combined. Sounds rather cringe if you ask me. But Kirito didn't give a shit and expressed enjoyment in having that as his new title. After equipping the rare boss drop, Coat of Midnight, Kirito soon leaves and proceeds to go to the next floor. Asuna briefly stops him, asking how he knew her name. Kirito told her to look at her HP bar. She then finally learns his name and felt dumb that she did not notice that gain function. Kirito then tells Asuna to find a strong guild that she can trust, since there were limits on what a solo player could do. After that, Kirito and Asuna parted ways. On April 8, 2023, in the town of Taft, members of the Moonlit Black Cats Guild were celebrating after Kirito saved them. Guild leader Keita sent an invitation to Kirito after learning that he was a solo player. Hiding his true level, Kirito joined as a temporary member until the guild could be independent without him. Kirito was also asked to help develop the stats of another player named Sachai. To maintain his own level, Kirito kept sneaking out at night to go grind in the higher floor labyrinths. After coming back from his self-leveling, he received a message from Keita saying that Sachai had gone missing and that they were looking for her. He quickly found her within the drains of the city with the help of his tracking skill. After learning that she was incredibly afraid of dying, Kirito comforts her, constantly telling her that he would not let her die. Afterwards, Kirito would commonly comfort Sachai whenever she was afraid, thus helping her sleep by being by her side. Soon, all of the members aside from Kirito would face their death in a dungeon's treasure trap room. Kirito did everything he could to protect them, but it was too late, as the trapdoor in the trap room activates really fast, trapping anyone inside and instantly killing them. That would later traumatize Kirito. Seeing how the girl and the rest of them died, Kirito would get really depressed and blame him for ever joining their party. Several months later, on December 24, 2023, Kirito met with an information broker, Argo the Rat, who was able to provide him the info about Christmas Boss event. Kirito was aiming to get the revival item rumored to be in the possession of that event boss, so he could revive that girl. He wanted to revive her no matter what she may have felt about him. He would gladly take all of her anger. As Christmas Eve neared, Kirito changed into better equipment, feeling sad about the deaths of his comrades. Kirito then goes to the 35th floor dungeon. Kirito was followed by Klein and the enemy guild. Klein initially wanted to fight the Christmas boss with Kirito, but Kirito refused. When Klein tried to persuade his friends, another guild, the Divine Dragon Alliance, appeared near their location. While Kirito is processing the boss Nicholas, Klein and his guild members decide to block the opposite guild. While the other players took a break, a weary Kirito appeared before them. Klein asked what happened, and Kirito handed him the item of rebirth, the returning soul divine stone. After reading the item's description, Klein discovered that it could only save the player during their 10-second end phase. When Kirito started walking away, Klein stopped him and told him to live until the end. Kirito heads back to his room all depressed. Soon he receives a recorded message from that girl, which was time to appear at Christmas Day. She says how he might die at some point. She tells Kirito that if she were to die, he should not blame himself. She ends her recording message by thanking Kirito for all the time he had spent with her. On February 23, 2024, in a field dungeon called Forest of the Rogue, the mid-level player and beast tamer Silica decided to leave her current group after an argument with one of her members and return to Misha on her own. However, due to the design of the field dungeon, she got lost and encountered small monsters several times. After hours of navigating through the jungle, she encountered few mob monkeys. However, she left her party without taking additional healing items, and her remaining stocks quickly ran out. While Silica was distracted looking for the remaining healing items, the drunken monkeys tries to attack Silica. Just before they were about to land the final blow, her tamed monster, Pina's feathered dragonling, intercepted the blow and was subsequently killed in the process. Silica was shocked by her pet's death. At that time, our main character Kirito, who had come across her by chance, quickly jumps in and saves her. After being saved, Silica cries over the loss of her dear friend. Silica regained some hope when Kirito explains to her that it is possible to revive her partner with a special flower at the 47th floor. However, she is soon discouraged when she realizes that the difficulty would be too high for her current level, as well as there being a 3-day time limit to revive Pina. Feeling obligated for not being able to save her tamed monster, Kirito provided her with some sturdier equipment to increase her protection and partnered with Silica to retrieve the flower. Kirito would have gotten it himself, however the presence of the deceased pet's owner was required for the item to appear. Silica asked him why he helped her, and after she promised not to laugh at his response, Kirito says that she reminds him of his little sister, which caused Silica to burst into laughter. Silica returned with Kirito to Missy, the main town of the 35th floor, to discuss their plans for retrieving the flower. Back at the inn, Kirito explained to Silica about the concept of player killing and color cursors of players who have attacked or killed. After having dinner, the two went to their own rooms. Silica, in her undergarments, was thinking about Kirito. It seemed that she fell in love, head over heels with Kirito. Just as Kirito knocks at her door, Silica barely remembers to get dressed before letting Kirito in, which embarrassed her a great deal. Kirito then comes and took out a mirage sphere to show data on the 47th floor to Silica. As he was continuing with his explanations, he suddenly detected someone eavesdropping on them and ran out to see who was there, but the player quickly fled. When Silica asked Kirito how someone was able to eavesdrop on them, Kirito explained that players with a high-level straining skill can just listen from outside and hear everything. Both of them began their journey to the southern section of the 47th floor. Before going to the location of the Numa flower, Kirito gave Silica a teleport crystal just in case something went wrong. After defeating multiple plant monsters along the way and conversing about Kirito's sister, they finally makes it to the Hill of Memories. Kirito asked Silica to revive Pina and Missy as there were strong monsters around the area. However, when returning with the item, Kirito sensed a group of players waiting to ambush them and told Silica to get her teleport crystal out. Rosalia, who Kirito revealed to be the leader of Titan's Hand Guild, appeared and demanded them to give up the flower. When Silica wondered how Rosalia could be a member of an orange guild if she had a green cursor, Kirito explained that this was a simple trick, where players like her find targets for the orange members of the guild. Kirito then told Rosalia that he was looking for her under the request of a leader of the Fallen Guild, the Silver Flags, who wanted her and her guild to be sent to jail. The other members then came out of hiding, with their weapons at the ready. One of the members, after hearing Silica call Kirito by his name, recognized him as the Black Swordsman. The member told Rosalia that Kirito used a one-handed sword with no shield build, was a beater, and a member of the Clearers, but Rosalia rejected such a claim as she believed that if he were a clearer, he would not be wandering on the lower floors. She then ordered her members to attack him. As the orange players attacked Kirito, he did nothing. Thus, Silica began to worry that he would die and was almost ready to attack them. However, as she looked at his hit points HP bar, she suddenly saw it rising again. The orange players continued attacking Kirito for a while, but eventually got exhausted from attacking, annoying Rosalia. Kirito then told the orange players that they did around 400 damage to him in 10 seconds, while, being a much more higher level than them, his battle healing skill would heal 600 points within 10 seconds.
How the hell did he get so overpowered?
Psh, I'm not overpowered.
At that moment, Kirito took out a rare corridor crystal, bought by the Fallen Guild's leader, and planned to send them all to the prison on the first floor governed by the army. All the Orange Guild members seemingly gave in to Kirito's supremacy, except for Rosalia, who told him that if he attacked her, he would go orange. Kirito, with his speed, rushed up to Rosalia and threatened to kill her, stating that because of his status as a solo player, he would not mind being orange for a few days. Rosalia then dropped her spear, and all of the members were sent to the Black Iron Palace's jail. Afterwards, Kirito and Silica returned to the Weathercock Pavilion. There, Kirito apologized for ending up using her as bait to lure the Orange Guild, revealing that he was afraid that if he had told her the truth beforehand, she would have been scared, but she denied it, stating that he was a good person. Silica wanted to join him, but their levels were too far apart, and Kirito needed to return to the front lines. Under Kirito's prompt, Silica used a flower on Pina's heart, thinking of how she would tell Pina about her one-day adventure with Kirito.
On March 6, 2024, there was a meeting at the main town of the 56th floor, where all the top players and the clearers were discussing the advancement of the game. In this meeting, Asuna, the vice commander of the Knights of the Blood, debated with Kirito over strategies to fight against the field boss, Geocrawler. Asuna's plan was to lure the boss into the town and then kill it while it was distracted by the NPCs. However, Kirito objected as they would be trampling on the NPCs' lives, though Asuna coldly stated that they were merely objects to the game. Thus, they would simply respawn after being killed, unlike the players. She also reminded Kirito of her status, and so he was forced to comply. Afterwards, Abel confronted Kirito about their constant bickering, causing Kirito to remember the advice about joining a guild that he had given to Asuna and how amazing she'd have become. Later in April, Asuna found a sleeping Kirito. She tried to tell him off for not working at the front lines. Kirito responded by saying, "The weather in Aincrad is at its best, so it would be a waste to be in the labyrinth on such a fine day." She rested beside him to test his theory and fell fast asleep. When Asuna woke up after 8 hours of sleep, she noticed Kirito watching over her and almost attacked him before remembering what had happened. To thank Kirito for protecting her as she was sleeping, Asuna then goes to treat him a meal at an NPC restaurant in the 57th floor's main town. There they discuss the concept of sleep player killing, which is caused by forced dueling. Before they could eat, they suddenly heard a scream outside and hurried to investigate. Upon arriving, Kirito and Asuna witnessed a murder within the city, which should have been impossible due to the anti-criminal code effect area feature within a safe area in the game. A heavily armored player was hung by a rope in front of a church, appearing to have been pushed out of a window after being impaled with a spear, then finally shattering into blue polygons. As the killed player was still within the city boundaries, Kirito believed that the cause of death was losing all his health in a duel with another player. However, the winner notification for such a duel did not appear, eliminating that possibility. While investigating the murder case, Kirito and Asuna interviewed a witness, Yoko, who claimed that she was supposed to meet up with the victim, Canes. After retrieving the murder weapon and leaving Yoko in the safety of an inn, Kirito and Asuna traveled to a player's shop in the main town on the 50th floor, Algade, to have it appraised by Angle. He deciphered that the weapon, named Guilty Thorn, was created by a player named Grimlock. Kirito attempted to test if the weapon could harm him inside the city, but Asuna stopped him before he could stab his hand. They exited the shop after leaving the weapon with Egel. The next day, Kirito and Asuna met up with Yoko at the restaurant. They learned that Yoko, Canes, and Grimlock were former members of a guild, which had lost their leader, Griselda. She told them after obtaining a rare ring from a monster, they voted on whether they should keep or sell it, and came to the decision to sell it with 5 people voting yes and 3 voting to keep it. Griselda then went to the front lines to try and sell it, but never came back at all. Yoko mentioned that Grimlock was the leader's in-game husband and that the killer may possibly be after the guild members who have opposed the selling of the ring, whom were Canes, Yoko, and Schmidt. By Yoko's request, Kirito and Asuna brought Schmidt to have him meet with Yoko. During their conversation, Yoko told Schmidt that she believed that the killer was the vengeful ghost of their deceased female leader, Griselda, since no normal player could kill another inside the safe area. Suddenly, as Kirito, Asuna, and Schmidt are watching the panicked Yoko, she was murdered in front of them. As she fell from the second-floor window, Kirito rushed to the window, but she was shattered into blue polygons in front of his eyes. After witnessing the girl's death, Kirito spotted the hooded murderer fleeing from the crime scene and attempted to capture him. During the pursuit, the hooded murderer took out a teleportation crystal. When Kirito noticed this, he used his blade-throwing skills to attempt to distract the hooded man, but the attack was blocked by the anti-criminal code effect area effect. The murderer was not surprised by the attack. The hooded man then began to use his teleportation crystal, and while Kirito was chasing him, the bells suddenly rang, preventing him from hearing where the murderer was teleporting off to. Frustrated by his failed attempt to capture the perpetrator, Kirito returned to the room and slammed his fist against the wall. Meanwhile, Asuna was guarding the terrified Schmidt, who fully believed that the murderer was really the vengeful ghost. After sending Schmidt back to the Divine Dragon Alliance's headquarters, Asuna began to believe that the black-robed player really was Griselda's ghost by having seen it twice. But Kirito won't believe it, as he believes in facts. Kirito then had an explanation regarding the teleport crystal, but he quickly disregarded it after. After a moment, Asuna gave Kirito a sandwich. Kirito praised the sandwich, thinking that the sandwich was bought, but he was then told that it was handmade by Asuna. Kirito then jokingly suggested auctioning her handmade food in order to get rich. This angered Asuna, causing Kirito to lose grip of his sandwich. As he witnessed the sandwich shattering into fragments, he fell to the ground. At first, seemingly upset with the disappearance of the sandwich, but in reality, he realized the truth about the crime, exclaiming that what they had seen was something else, and that there had never been any weapons or logic that could make murders possible in safe areas. Meanwhile, in the 19th floor's fields, the Hill of the Cross, Schmidt visited Griselda's grave, asking for forgiveness. Then a ghost-like voice was heard, repeatedly asking, "Oh, really?" and thus frightening Schmidt. Then he realized that something was getting close to him quickly, and Schmidt turned around, only to find a rabbit. Schmidt, now relieved, turned around to find a hooded ghost. The ghost asked Schmidt what he had done and took out a sword. Frightened, Schmidt confessed that on that day, he had found a crystal and a memo in his belt pouch, but he was then interrupted by a man's voice asking him whose orders was it, and a second hooded ghost appeared. Schmidt believed that the second ghost was Grimlock's and replied, saying that he did not know who had given the order and claimed to never have murdered anyone. The two ghosts then took off their hoods and were revealed to be Yolko and Canes, who were very much alive, which really shocked Schmidt. Meanwhile, Kirito explained to Asuna that Yolko and Canes were in fact still alive, stating that within safe areas, a player's HP could not be lowered under normal circumstances. But the durability of objects, on the other hand, could still be decreased, like the sandwich, which lost its durability and shattered into fragments. The spear that pierced Canes' armor did not lower Canes' HP, but the armor's durability instead, which explained the dispersing shards, and that by timing for the moment the armor broke, Canes teleported away, resulting in an effect similar to the death special effect. As for Yolko, Kirito guessed that she had the dagger piercing the back of her clothing, as she had never shown them her back while talking with them. When her clothing was about to shatter, she acted as if a dagger from the outside had hit her and fell off the window, teleporting out at about the moment that it would shatter. Kirito also presumed that the hooded murderer was Canes. At the Hill of the Cross, Schmidt realized Yolko and Canes' plan and stated that he was only following an order that someone had paid a lot of money for him to do. Schmidt was then suddenly attacked by a dagger and became paralyzed by it. The attackers then approached, with Schmidt recognizing them as members from the infamous player-killing guild, Laughing Coffin, and they revealed that they had come with the intention to kill Schmidt, Yolko, and Canes. Just as the situation looked grim, Kirito arrived in the nick of time on a horse to save them and scared off the player-killers by claiming that he had reinforcements arriving soon. Heeding Kirito's warning, Poe, Red-Eyed Exaxa, and Johnny Black departed from the scene. Schmidt thanked Kirito for saving them, but asked how he knew that they would be ambushed. Kirito responded that he did not know for sure, but thought it was a possibility. Kirito began questioning about the two weapons made by Grimlock. They admitted Grimlock was not willing to help them at first, but eventually gave in to their request. Kirito told them that Grimlock did not oppose to their plan for Griselda's sake, surprising Yolko and Canes. Asuna says that in her guild, they have a rule that the item belongs to the person who received it. She continued, saying that in SAO, it was up to the player to announce what he or she received after a battle. In order to prevent having lies between the party members, she believed that it was best to set such a rule. She also believed that this rule would make marriages mean something in SAO. Explaining that once two players were married, The item storage is shared with the significant other. After getting married, the player cannot hide anything anymore. Asuna thought that it was romantic and realistic, while Kirito, out of curiosity, asked if Asuna was ever married. Asuna prepared to attack him with a fork. Kirito quickly apologized and realized something about the storage sharing. Kirito asked what would happen to the items if one of the couple died. Asuna says they would likely be sent to the spouse's inventory instead of being lost. Both then quickly realized that when Griselda died, due to her in-game marriage status with Grimlock, the ring had ended up in his inventory and that he had stolen it from his own storage. Now in the present time, Keynes questioned if it was Grimlock that sent the memo and killed Griselda. Kirito explained that Grimlock hired the Laughing Coffin to commit the murder. Kirito also explained that Grimlock helped with Yolko and Keynes' plan so that he could use their plan to bury the ring case forever, thus explaining the appearance of the Laughing Coffin. Asuna arrived with the captured Grimlock, the client of the Laughing Coffin. He admitted that he was the mastermind behind the death of his wife, whose real name was Yuko. His actual motive was that he did not want her personality to change from what it was originally in the real world. Believing that his wife forever vanished from his life, so he decided to kill her out of love. Asuna corrected him, saying that it was not love, but a feeling of possession. Startled by Asuna's words, the stupid guy fell to the ground, regretting his action. As the case drew to a close, Asuna asked Kirito what he would do if he was to get married and noticed a side of his partner that he had not known before. Surprising Asuna, he replied that he would feel lucky to be married to someone, because that would mean that they would love every side of their partner that they already knew and would have another part of them to love. Before leaving, Kirito grabbed Asuna's arm to show her Yuko's ghost and felt that Yuko could then rest in peace. Asuna suddenly asked if they can add each other as friends. Even though our virgin main boy insisted that he was a solo Chad, Asuna urged him to think about it while they get some food as they heads towards the town.
And with that, we end our video today. We'll continue the next part in next few days. Meanwhile, subscribe and enjoy our other contents posted in our channel. Until then, stay safe. Bye.